So we're live. Welcome everyone. This is going to be this week's episode of ProtocolWatch. Welcome from the IO Foundation. Today's episode is going to be on exploring ICANN, which is the organization that takes care of domain names, IP addresses, and a few things more, as we will be discovering. It's going to be another Discover episode where we're going to be focusing specifically on an organization itself, looking into governance, participation, and so forth, as opposed to the upcoming event, as you can see on the screen, which is going to be ICANN 81, taking place in Istanbul from 9th to 14th of November, for which we will make another specific episode just to prepare what's going to happen over there. Now, as usual, let's start with the obvious. These podcasts, these streams are oriented towards checking on what's happening in the standard developing organizations scene. These are organizations that issue either policy, technical codes, or protocols in general specifications that are going to be influencing how the tech sector functions, and that everyone basically inherits in their daily life tech stack. These organizations, we look at them as obvious choke points. If you control any of them in whichever degree, you do control part of the industry, and of course that makes them very valuable and as well easy targets for bad faith actors. Part of the work that we do in ProtocolWatch is precisely to keep an eye on these organizations and try to figure out not only how they function, also what kind of movements might be lurking that may attempt to control them. Essentially, we want to expose all of those situations, all of those attempts. On the other hand, we also want to figure out ways for more technologies to participate in these environments. Of course, because of the reasons that I just exposed in terms of the importance of SDOs in the tech sector. Let's begin with the episode. Also, a few reminders. I always like to mention this. No one is supposed to know 100% about each of one of those organizations, how they function. Each of one of them it's a whole universe on themselves. It takes a long time to get to understand them in full, and there's no shame whatsoever on needing to start somewhere and not knowing everything at a given time. That's fine. We have a philosophy in the IO Foundation as to the only dumb question is the one that you don't ask. If you have a question, send us an email, reach out to us, or check online. You're probably going to find the answer on your own. Don't feel bad about it. That's the main message. Don't feel bad about it. Just keep doing the work. Check on the information, figure out how to connect the dots, and eventually the picture will materialize in front of your eyes. All right, so let's start with the organization itself. We still haven't finished the template that we wanted for this kind of episodes, although it's very well advanced. I might be able to dig it out from my laptop here and use it as a guide for the episode. In any case, let's just start as it is with the website, and let's look into what ICANN is. ICANN, as you can see here, their website is icann.org. This is the organization that is mostly known for their managing of domain names, so everything.org, everything.com, everything.net, everything.auto, you name it. And they, however, have a bigger weight on how the internet functions than we typically give it credit for. To make an introduction about domain names, there's essentially two types of domain names. And I would like to I need to figure out a way to also have a bit of a whiteboard over here. Types of domain names. I hate this keyboard. I really hate it. Unfortunately, they have become a bit of a pricey community. Right, I was trying to see 5,000 examples, whatever. Okay, so anyway, there's essentially two types of domain names. What's called GTLDs, just generic top-level domains, and CCTLDs. Those are country code top-level domains. CCTLDs and GTLDs are managed quite differently. CCTLDs are assigned to one specific organization per country, and they have their own regulations, and this is not an area that we have been looking too much into it. It would probably be very worthy to have an episode just concentrating, just focusing on CCTLDs. The ones that we want to look into today are GTLDs, generic top-level domains. GTLDs are basically whatever you have rightmost from a domain. So in this case, for instance, in ICANN.org, the GTLD is .org. It could be .auto, it could be .xyz, it could be whatever. There's hundreds of them, and different registrars will provide you access to basically buying whatever you want as secondary domain name. So basically, in this case, ICANN is a secondary domain name that is under this primary, this GTLD.org. If you purchase a .com domain, whatever.com, then whatever would be your secondary domain, and your GTLD would be the .com. Now, GTLDs are managed and contractually tied by ICANN's regulations. ICANN essentially generates in around, say, 80% of policy and 20% technology. It's a very rough estimate. Just to give you an example, they focus a lot on how the domains are used more than how the DNS system is built, because the DNS system is basically functioning for so long. Updates are not very needed except for improvements in security, etc., but the system is quite stable. Now, let's see. Let's get started with the website. I'm just gonna go very quickly to the get started part over here and see if we can get. Actually, I'm not liking this. I'm not liking in the previous episodes. The website of the organizations that we were looking into gave us a very good structure to follow. In this case, not so much. I would rather go into the structure and governance more quickly, and ICANN's website doesn't really provide you with a straight, direct. Okay, so we're gonna have to do some searches and figure out a way to handle this keyboard that I really don't like. Okay, so let's go for ICANN structure. A few words of advice. ICANN, it's, as I was mentioning, each one of the SDOs is a whole universe on their own, and ICANN is no exception. And on top of that, they have a governance system that is called multi-stakeholder. It's very easy to participate in ICANN processes. You just need to prepare yourself to be able to understand what's going on and all the different steps that different processes are composed of. And you also need to learn ICANNese. And what do I mean by that? Boy, if SDOs tend to have their own acronyms and expressions, ICANN is probably on the top 3. It's really crazy how much vocabulary they have. Let's see if this image is useful. I actually don't like it. Let's see if this website allows us to have a general overview They used to have a very simple PDF with all of this. I really cannot find it anymore. It's resources, let's see. No, registrars, careers. I would like to show you first the governance model and how the ICANN is structured. Oh, by the way, I didn't introduce Tristan. Tristan is helping us, as usual, with production side of things. Tristan, are we playing the background music?
We are, yes.
Okay, great. Let's see, where can I find advisory committees? I don't want the advisory committees right now. I want the simple PDF that used to have the information as to how ICANN is structured. Acronyms and terms. So this is something that we want to be looking into. I tell you, there's dozens of them. I don't need Octo right now. Address supporting organizations. No. I want to show a general structure of ICANN. Come on. See if there's anything on images per se. My concern on using any of these is that they might not be updated. This one here is from ICANN though. It's from the ICANN website, let's see. This is from 2012, come on. Oh, Avri is there. Avri used to be everywhere in ICANN as one of the personalities that has done so much for ICANN. I hate it. I hate it that their website is so full of information. It's very difficult to find things. Way more difficult than they probably imagine. This is part of the fun. ICANN for beginners. Courses and learning. Come on. What comes? The watch history video. I don't know. Introduction to ICANN. I don't want the course. Okay, basics. Give me the structure, please. Jesus, people, seriously, how can you make it so difficult to find a basic document on structure? I need to talk to some of the ICANN staff. This is ridiculous. My gosh. Introduction to ICANN. I'm guessing I'm gonna need to have the account to enter, and don't want to. Damn it. Yeah, they're required to have access to the account. We have accounts. That the problem is I haven't created one for the podcast specifically. Oh, come on, unconscious bias. Seriously, do you need to have that kind of training on an ICANN? Who is doing this? There's no such thing as unconscious bias when you are going to be using a domain. That's ridiculous. Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to have to use the diagram that we found here, although I'm going to take it with a bit of a grain of salt, and I will eventually try to find a better one. So essentially, this is going to be roughly correct. There might be some changes because this again is from 2012, and yeah, I suspect there may have been some changes. I don't want to assure that this is 100% accurate, although it's going to be accurate enough. All right, so you can see here the structure. Each of one of the so start from the beginning. ICANN is a multi-stakeholder governance system. What that means is every single person, regardless of what do they represent, whether they represent themselves, a corporation, an NGO, or an operator, an intellectual property lawyer, whatever, they are going to have a constituency in which they can join and participate in the processes for ICANN. All of those constituencies, all of those groups, organizations inside ICANN have different names and different purposes and different mandates. As you can see there in the diagram, all ICANN is essentially managed by a board of directors, and there's a number of seats. Some of them are voting seats and some other are non-voting seats. That distinction is going to be quite important moving forward, and I'll get into that a little bit later. In terms of groups, you can see on the diagram that there's this thing called a nomination committee, a NomCom, which is also quite relevant when it comes to other places such as the ITF. The ITF also has their own NomCom. The NomCom basically takes care of nominating and electing the members for the board of directors. And there is a number of SO supporting organizations, and you see that the ASO, the CCNSO, and the GNSO. Let's have a look at each of one of them separately. That's the address supporting organization, and this one basically manages, as you can see on the screen, it advises the board on policy issues related to the allocation and management of IP addresses. Then you have the CCNSO, which takes care of country code, as you can see here. And then GNSO, that's the generic top-level domain. So generic names supporting organization. Now, you also have the at-large. At-large is essentially all the constituencies that are organized per region for the representation of users as well as technologists, etc., etc. And each of one of these constituencies do have, organizations do have their own subdivisions. Now, if you look here on the right side as well, there is a seat on the board for an ITF representation, as well as Security and Stability Advisory Committee. That's another advisory committee. That's an AC in the ICANN lingo. In fact, there is things such as SOAC. SOAC is basically all the supporting organizations as well as the advisory committees, SOAC. You also have the Root Server System Advisory Committee, RSAC. And then you have this Governmental Advisory Committee, the GAC. And what I find very interesting is that the GAG is the place where each of one of the countries from the world, territories, governments have a representation in ICANN. However, they hold only one seat at the board of directors, and that seat is non-voting. I find that fascinating. Now, if you look at the subdivision, for instance, of supporting organizations such as the GNSO has registries for generic top-level domains, another group for generic top-level domain registrars, and there's a difference between those two. We can look into it later. Intellectual property interests, IP, the ISPs themselves, the internet service providers, business constituency, non-commercial interest constituency, as well as not-for-profit operational concerns, which, by the way, that one has been renamed as a not-for-profit organizations constituency. I'm going to have to flag this one to them because, in fact, currently the comms manager, the comms chair, for NPOC, the not-for-profit organizations constituency, and that's something that should have been changed. Although if it's from 2012, I can imagine they will want to remain the original label name. So yeah, let's not do anything about it. Anyway, the NCUC and NPOC, they are under something called the NCSG, the non-commercial SG steering committee. I can't remember what the SG was. Let me see very quickly. See, even myself, I get lost with all of these acronyms all the time. Stakeholder group. Okay, SG is stakeholder group. All right. Let's go back to the diagram. All right. So as you can see as well, the ASO has the RERs, the regional internet registry. So that's AFRINIC, APNIC, ARIN, LACNIC, and RIP and NCC. The previous episode, by the way, was supposed to be on APNIC. And unfortunately, I had to fly last minute to attend some meeting for study group 17 from the ATU, and I just coincided with that flight. So that's the reason why the episode didn't air. We're probably going to be doing sometime this year as well, because they deserve to have the episode done. And if you look at the CCNSOs, then you have the CCTLD registries that are inside that particular constituency, that particular group. In terms of general structure, that gives you an idea on how ICANN is structured. Now, there's more than just this, because there's also working parties. There are so NCSG, for instance, the stakeholder group is not reflected in the GNSO. Essentially, it's the combination between the non-commercial interest and so NCUC as well as NPOC. But then you have the contracted house parties, etc. So there's several other structures that are not reflected in here, and I will try to find later some better design. Now, why this matters? It matters because everything that has to do with GTLDs, with generic top-level domains, is managed by the GNSO, and everything that has to do with CCTLDs, the country code country code top-level domains, will be under CCNSO. You don't see government involved in the GNSO. There isn't any. And so there is a certain influence from governments into how domains and how other elements and how other processes in ICANN get to function. However, they don't have a direct control over things. This is quite unique. This is very, very impressive. Obviously, the GAC does have mechanisms to influence how things happen in ICANN. The point is that they don't have a direct stranglehold, if you will. They don't have. They can be bypassed if their position is not rational or it's not acceptable. All the constituencies can definitely pledge opposition, or more than pledge, express. Opposition, and they might as well be taken into consideration, and the GAC may not succeed into what was their objective. And again, this is totally radically different, for instance, as opposed to, let's say, ITU, where the main control of the main governance systems is specifically based on governments and their representatives, which is quite something. All right, let's have a look very quickly at. We'll have a look at each of one of the structures, but I wanted to go first to the acronyms. As you can see here, this page is specifically on acronyms and terms, and it's full of them. Okay, this is letter A, and it has several pages just for letter A. I don't know that we can have a full list of it, but imagine how difficult it is to track all the acronyms that they in fact have an email to be able to send them request to update the list should anything be missing. And I remember that I observed 2 or 3 terms that were quite used around ICANN literature and process documentation, and I did reach out a long time ago to them, and they do update the terms. But my point was those were so obvious or so regular, and somehow they had gone under the radar. That's because there's tons of them. There's literally tons of them. Lacnic and so forth. It's a lot of them. Anyway, don't get discouraged. That's normal. It's also really good that you have this page where you can find sorry, GTLD for instance should be here. Let's say generic top level domain. For some reason, registry continuity. Why would you want to look specifically for transition process? Whatever. I would prefer to just have GTLD as it is, as a term. That's community-based GTLD. Okay, here generic top level domain, etc., etc. So at least this acronyms page is quite useful. I'm gonna keep it for the organization page. All right, so let's look a little bit on history of ICANN, because this one is also quite the thing. I know a little bit of it, just not. I remember this panel was showcased in Hamburg last year, I think. It had a bit of a, let's see here. ICANN history project, that could also be interesting to look into. And what is this? ICANN wiki, ICANN historical timeline. That's actually also an interesting one. So by the way, there's this thing called ICANN wiki. I also don't know the whole story. I believe it was some very active participant in ICANN decided to generate a parallel wiki, and then it became a whole entity on its own. You would have a number of places of information for ICANN, from their website to their community site, which is basically a Confluence instance, and then the ICANN wiki. History of ICANN. This is a YouTube video. I don't know that I want to play it. Also, I don't know if it's going to be playing with the audio, so I'm just going to keep that one here. Dyson Surf, Chalabi, Chairperson. This doesn't really show anything with Postel, for instance, from what I can see here. Is there again this ICANN Trans 25 that was last year in the AGM in Hamburg, and it wants to play again the video. Why don't you just show me the timeline? Okay, all right, here we are. Here we are. Okay, before I jump into this, let's say that can I? No, it's not really. Okay. Can I click on it? No, it's a PDF. Okay. No, this doesn't carry all the information that I was hoping. So there's a story about how domain names were originally managed, and that would be through basically these people here: John Postel, Steve Crocker, and Vint Cerf. And story goes that as the DNS system was being created, John Postel will have the correspondence between DNS and IP addresses in a small book, which obviously would not scale, and eventually ICANN was created. But I wanted to see some of the history of it. Maybe we'll have to check on the videos. Tristan, do you think if we play the video, we'll have the audio?
You can try.
We can try. Let's see. Yeah. And how long is this? 4 minutes is fine. Yeah, let's try.
No.
Does the audio go out?
No. You'll need to share it with the audio.
Yeah, but I don't think it allows me when this does with. So apparently the audio is not going. All right. So shame on that. Cannot share because once we share the screen, I think it doesn't take the option of the audio. I think it was not appearing in the sharing. I can try again. Let's see. We can stop sharing and try again.
So I need to restart my computer because
Mm-hmm.
so I won't be able to monitor it.
Okay, so apparently I should be able to share audio, but for as long as it is a tab. All right, so let's do that for now.
Yeah, but I can't check the audio until
Come again?
I won't be able to check until
Right.
get this.
Okay, so I'll wait until you solve those problems. And meanwhile, let me see. Where can we go? Just wait for some technical difficulties that we're having over here, and we will then play that video. Now, I guess I should have started as to define what is a DNS. Let's see. Let's get into that. So ICANN manages domain names, and domain names is basically the human side of a DNS. Actually, we could go for DNS history, thinking about it. That could be better than just ICANN history. There you go. How do we have complete DNS history over here? Oh no, that's a particular DNS on domain on particular command. That's not what we want. DNS history. Okay, now we're looking for. Anyway, a DNS is basically what translates a domain name into an IP address. Most of us know that already. And you need to have a system that is able to be queried in order to be able to translate whatever.com, .or, .net into a corresponding IP address, and that work is done by DNS service. The DNS is managed. The root DNS is basically managed by a number of organizations that have a contract with ICANN, and ICANN also manages the IP addresses that those domains are translated into, both IPv4 and IPv6. There is an organization inside ICANN called IANA that was not in the structure that we were showing before. You can see here, IANA is nowhere to be seen. And IANA is the one that keeps track of the actual implementation as well as the registration of and allocation of IP addresses and registration of protocol ports. So let's say, for instance, that you go to IDF and that you decide to work on a RFC defining some new protocol, and once you're done and you publish, you would want to have a standard port assigned to that protocol so that everyone knows where to access. And in order to do that, you will have to do a procedure with IANA to register that port number, and it's basically a registry of unique numbers, both from an IP perspective and from a ports perspective, as well as from a domains perspective. That's all pretty much that they are. It's a registry, a big global registry of unique identifiers. How's that going? Okay. No pressure, don't worry. So let's see. ICANN originally didn't exist. It was essentially put together, let's see, timeline here, in 1988, as you can see here. That's when it...
You don't have a
Tell me.
video and you're not sharing your screen.
I'm not sharing yet. Oh, damn it. Cool, because I was waiting for... okay, let's see if I can share the tab. Which one was it? Hold on. It's only allowing me to share tabs that are on the same... Now we're not going to be able to do the audio, because I can only share tabs that are on the same browser that I'm using. So the public one will not be able to. That's a shame. Okay, 1 2 1 2. Is my audio going now? For some reason everything got disconnected. Technology, never there when you need it. Okay, I'm gonna have to restart my camera, I guess. Not that I want to, because problem is... Okay, hold on. So we're having technical difficulties on our end. Bear with us while we figured out what's going on. This is very weird, because literally nothing was touched on my end. So if I look into this, can I get... No, I'm gonna have to restart the camera. And unfortunately, all the position is probably going to be lost. All right, so let's go here. Reconfigure this again. No, definitely not there. So listen, learn. Anyone who's listening, just check your USB cables. The ones that we acquired are definitely crap. They're giving us a lot of problems all the time. Although particularly today, we never had any issues doing a stream itself. We had them at all the times, basically when setting up. And we were typically able to solve the problems, and now it's not the case. We're having it live, which is quite embarrassing. But hey, it is what it is. Okay, I think I've got it again. And hopefully we're back. Alright, so that's done. And then in terms of presentation, I'm just gonna share my screen again. And here we are. Alright. Okay, so as I was mentioning, ICANN itself was created in 1999, sorry. And this timeline here, this PDF, basically gives you an idea as to how the different constituencies and stakeholder groups and so forth were created. There's got to be a lot of story on each of one of them. And for instance, the first, let's see, look, 1998 for the creation of September, for the creation of ICANN, and a few months later is when the GAC is first going to run. ICANN 01 was held in Singapore. This is very interesting. So, as well as IETF, ICANN holds 3 annual meetings, different places in the world. One of the interesting things is that each of one of those meetings have a specific use or a specific orientation. The first one of the year is a community meeting. Essentially, it tries to reinforce the collaboration and participation of everyone involved in the ICANN community. Second one is policy meeting, where it's very much focused towards getting policy done, policy advanced. That's the shorter one of the 3 meetings. And then at the end of the year, they will have the AGM one, in which, of course, there's a General Assembly. In this case, ICANN 01 being held in Singapore, and that would be pretty much at the same time as, so I'm assuming that the first GAC inaugural meeting was also happening in Singapore. That would be interesting to investigate a bit further. A few months later, we can see the ASO is established. When was the GNSO being established? Can we do a search here? Yep. It's not easy to find. Okay. Nope. GNSO was first. No, there has to be something earlier than that. Oh my gosh, it's so difficult to find where the text may have been selected. Damn it. Where in the screen is this thing? Okay, GNSO here. So 2002 is when the GNSO gets to exist. That's quite a number of years after. That's interesting. MOU for protocol supporting organization. What was the protocol supporting organization? Okay, that's new. That's new to me. ICANN protocol supporting organization. Let's see, what was that? Okay, the PSO will advise the ICANN board with respects to matters relating to the assignment of parameters for internet protocols, technical standards that let computer exchange from. Okay, but is this? I never heard about this supporting organization. July the 4th, protocol council members. Okay. Is this still existing, this thing? Memorandum of... Okay, the ICANN wiki might be able to give us some extra information as to what's this. Was the initial version of the ICANN bylaw. So yes, the ICANN is basically regulated by some bylaws. We could have a look at that later. PSO advised. So they don't say exactly when it was taken down, but it was one of the first SOs. And it would be nice to know as well what would be the other ones. This is again when we would really benefit from having our mapping platform, which we are also working on, to be able to put all of these and have a proper visual timeline. This timeline is nice to have a look at. It's very difficult to have a general impression on how things have been happening across time. Even if you can see them there, there's too much how to say, the relevant dates that they are mentioning there do not necessarily have a correspondence as to for how long they were relevant. Because I would like to know again how the PSO, when did the PSO vanished? Where is the see it? So there's 3 hits for the term protocol. One of them is for the PSO. The other ones are for our SAC. Let's see, no, SAC. But none for the when the PSO ended up. When did it not become relevant anymore? And that's really what you want to see when you want to check the whole history of an organization. The GNSO restructures into the 2-house structure. Okay, cool. Could be even nicer if you... So this document lacks some links, essentially. So you're telling me that it's the GNSO reorganizes into the 2-house structure. Fine. What are those structures? So someone who's paying attention to this for the first time does not have all the information that they would require. And so if I want to go to the GNSO, for instance, and look at let's see, PDP workspaces, no. Info for newcomers. GNSO calendar, no. Council members, no. Reference documents, active mailing list, project groups. One of the good things about ICANN is that there is all the information is pretty much available. The issue is finding it. It's one of the complexities about having so much information that making sense of them and organize them in a way that is going to be easily reachable. It's not always straightforward. So there's no blames here put in this particular thing. I will, however, blame into who the hell decided to put in conscious bias training here. That I really don't understand. Now, for the difficulties that we're having finding all the information right now, that's just a reality. Council activities. I don't want the council activities. GNSO council, no. Stakeholder groups and constituencies. Let's see. So I would say that whatever they say here in the timeline that is structured into two houses, that may have been in the past. You can see here there is the non-commercial stakeholder group, the commercial stakeholder group, registrars and registries, and it's unclear to me how they are functioning themselves. So under the commercial one you have business, intellectual property and ISPs. Under non-commercial, NCUC and POC, as we were mentioning. And then registrars and registries are also under. I don't know if those two houses that they were mentioning would be those two, but then why aren't they also mentioning registrars and registries unless they came later on? Anyway, I think we're getting a little bit lost into all of this stuff about the history of ICANN. It's a shame we can't watch the video. We'll probably shed some better light on the history of ICANN.
Can you share the video on the comments?
Sure. I could do that. So
Click on the share on the top right.
come again?
Scroll up and then click on share on the upper right. Scroll up.
Yes. Over here. Now what I wanted.
Yeah, that's the.
Try to see copy link address, and I should be able to put it here on the comments in the chat. Although it's unclear if it's going to be reflecting only on the comments in the chat on YouTube.
It will post to YouTube at least.
YouTube at least, but it doesn't do it on Rumble. I believe it doesn't, and X.
You need to just post it as a comment later.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have that. Okay. All right, what else? So we looked into minimum of governance as well as the meetings for ICANN. I would like to look into, let's see, so how to participate. If your company, the best place that you can participate is definitely, well, okay, so hold on. Depending on what you want to do, for the most part, if you're, I wouldn't know how it applies for CCTLD, so I'm just going to be talking only from the perspective of GTLDs. Participating on anything that has to do with GTLDs on ICANN is essentially participating on domain policy. The way you do that is by looking into the structure that we were looking into before. Was it where was the? It was not this image. Where was the? Oh my gosh. No, seriously, I'm pissed of not having a proper structure of the of ICANN. So let's just find for it. Let's just find it. Okay. So it's not gonna be getting started. ICANN. I don't like the alt large option because it's not going to be. This is just at large. For real, there used to be a PDF that was very easy to see. Structures and issues. I don't think that's going to be the one that I want to find. No. Where is this thing? Board is so easy. Seriously, this is ridiculous. It used to be here in the beginners. What does ICANN do? Is it this one? No, but it was one of these PDFs. So can we go to explore? Do you have more of those explore? Why do they make it so difficult? Acronyms and terms, find your icon group and event, apply to professional. No, seriously, where are the PDFs that you used to have with basic information that were more than enough to have a general overview as to how ICANN functions, and they had some very good infographics showcasing the structure and the governance. Come on. All right, let's see what this URL gives us. Okay. It's just a CDN. Okay. Too bad. Check the courses and learning very quickly. Introduction to ICANN. All of this, we're going to need the account. Engagement calendar, webinars. It's not what I want. Governance. Governance documents, that's going to be the bylaws, articles of incorporation. That deserves a whole episode on itself. Agreements, financial board statements of interest. IDNs. This is something that really freaks me out. Also requires a whole episode on its own. But let's say that IDNs are this concept of internationalized domain names. I have a few issues with the idea itself. So the concept here on itself is not bad. What they want to do is to provide the ability to write domain names in other scripts that are not essentially ASCII. In other words, Latin script. That's because, well, Latin script was the script used by the people who invented the internet, and obviously naming rights, as this guy used to say. If I'm the one who's inventing something, of course I'm going to use whatever is common use for me to describe it or to define it. And so domain names at the moment are pretty much English based or Latin in terms of writing. That's why you type ICANN.org and so forth in your domain names. And the idea is that that might be a little bit too far-fetched for people who don't speak English and who speak a language that doesn't necessarily transliterate into Latin script, which is a substantial amount of people in the world. And so the idea would be that they would be able to type domain names that they are interested in or that they want to reach through their own local scripts. So think about being able to type domain names in Hanzi or in Hangul or in Jawi or Arabic, whatever. So this and this is done under the umbrella of this internationalization of the access of the internet, because everyone needs to have access to the internet. That, by the way, is a very poor argument. People should have the possibility of being connected to the internet. They shouldn't have to be connected to the internet. It's two very different things. Having the option of getting connected and deciding to do so, that's great. Having the option to getting connected and also deciding not to do so should be just as good. It's your personal choice. It's up for you to decide whether you want to be connected to the internet or not. Otherwise, it becomes an imposition upon you. And I'm not very much happy with that. Now, for those who would not have either education or access to resources to be able to learn how to use English script, ASCII, they came up with this idea of being able to use their own scripts to type domain names. Now, there's a number of problems that I see there. I haven't gone through the rabbit hole sufficiently as to have a clear opinion. So right now it's initial opinion that might be revisited as I investigate more. The issue that I see with this is, first, the name on itself, it's a problem to me. So internationalized domain names, that is passive. I can remember. So the adjective of international has been turned into a verb. That typically tells you where the intention is coming. That's a very specific strategy from certain ideologies, to turn adjectives into verbs, because that means that someone has generated that. It's not a descriptor, it's an action generated by someone. Internationalized domain names only define domain names that are not written in scripts that are ASCII, which basically implies that domain names written in ASCII are not international. I find that to be a very curious idea, and a quite dismissive one, in a way. If the internet is what it is, it's because it is international, and so ASCII domain names have helped to the internet to be international. I find that to be a nonsensical approach, and it's very much in line in this ideology of casting a shadow on everything that has been done in the past, specifically by the West. I really don't like the name. I find it has some undertones that are absolutely unacceptable and that do not showcase the spirit of a unified and united internet. It sounds like a very divisive name to me. That's for one thing. Second, the people who are going to be looking for specific information do not necessarily require to know a domain, because that's not how you function most of the time. Most of the time you go to a search engine, you look and you type for some information, you ask a query, you get some results, you read the results typically on your own script, on your own language, and then you will click on a link and go wherever that website is. The elements that pay attention to that is SEO and so forth. And I don't think the domain names being written in other scripts is going to improve that particular SEO hit. Yes, I know that domain names have a lot of weight in SEO results. Sure, I'm not convinced that this is an argument that really brings all the complexity for all the browsers in the world having to now understand not only ASCII but so many other scripts, which, by the way, they decide which scripts are going to be accepted, because there's so many out there they cannot accept all of them. So there's been a working group that has been looking into this. I need to look into all the documentation. Let's say that they accepted 32. I'm just making up a number. What happened with the other 75? Because there's probably more than 75 extra scripts. And so they made a determination as to which ones would be the ones that would be accepted under international domain names policy. And obviously they have made a decision as to which to incorporate and which one to leave behind. I'm not 100% sure which criteria has been used there and how you can justify that you're going to be. I don't know how you can claim that one has been exclusionary and then choose another group and exclude some others. I'm not 100% sure how that argument works. And so on top of that, so that's from the user perspective, I don't think is going to help as much people as they pretend. I also don't think it's going to be adopted by the end user as much as they would pretend. But on top of that, I'm much more concerned about phishing attacks, for instance. If you give me a domain name that is written in Hanzu, I don't have any expertise enough to be able to make sure that that is the domain name where I want to go. It's going to be so many people who are going to be tricked. Give me a domain name written in Thai. Where am I going? What kind of verification can I do before I go to that website? How many people are going to be fooled by websites that look exactly like the original one and just, a couple of characters difference in the domain name? You don't necessarily going to be paying attention or realizing if you're not familiar with that particular script. Let alone the problems that the backend people are going to have, connecting servers, etc., and how certain companies may start publishing documentation with domain names to which you need to connect in order to make avail of their services, and you will not really know if those are the domain names you need to connect or not, etc. That's going to be. This is Tristan, do you say Babel or Babel? For the religious story, is the Tower of Babel or Tower of Babel?
Well, I call it Babel, but some people call it Babel.
Yeah, so I don't know how it's in English. In Spanish, it's Babel. So essentially, we had the tower built. We had a unified language, and it was working well. And those who wanted to participate in this environment just made a little bit of work and got to understand and got to use the system. Now basically we are fracturing all of that, and we're going to have, I don't know, dozens of different scripts, and good luck with all of that in the name of having an international internet. It's ridiculous. You want to have one single internet one single unifying system of communication, and yet you want to split that into several segments based on language. It's ridiculous. Also, I remember in the AGM Hamburg, ICANN 78, I did ask the question as to what was the meaning of the word internationalized to the board during the open forum. I'm still waiting for an answer to that. I don't think they will ever answer. Anyway, another rant. This IDN thing is worthy of an episode on itself. So I'm gonna actually take note of that. Episode on IDNs. Okay. I failed to mention as well that there's an ombudsman. If you ever find that there's during the participation something is wrong and you're not feeling comfortable for whatever reason, please don't be overly sensitive. One of the things about engaging in this kind of environments in SEOs is that you are necessarily going to be confronting people who don't agree with you, and that's okay. It's part of the process. You have two opposing views in one specific element, in one specific idea. You have to negotiate, you have to sit down with them, you have to talk as much as possible, you have to be allowed to talk. One of the reasons why freedom of expression is so important, so that you can actually express whatever the hell is crossing your mind. And sometimes you're going to have a lot of opposition. It doesn't mean it's targeted at you. It doesn't mean that they're trying to harm you, they're trying to minimize you, they're trying to push you into a corner. Sometimes it is the case. Most of the time it will never be. It will not be. For the cases where you are basically being targeted and harassed and ignored and actively harmed, if you want to call it that way. I don't really like the word. I would say what would be a good way to express it? Actively stopped from having an actual active participation in ICANN processes. In that case, I would recommend to go to the ombudsman and see what are the possible procedures or methodologies that you can have to remediate that. In general, just grow a thick skin. Seriously, it's the best advice you can get, and the best behavior you can have in these environments that are going to be very confrontational at times. Okay. This is going to be again the same thing that we saw before. I don't see Ayana here. It should be somewhere. Alright. Today's episode is basically showcasing that we need a bit more of a structure, and I hope to have the document finalized, and possibly we're gonna have to do a bit of I wanted to avoid scripting episodes on purpose because I wanted this to be as organic as possible. I do feel, however, in previous discovering or episodes, the website as I was mentioning, did give us a good structure to go and investigate how things work, how they function. ICANN's website is not really allowing for that, and it's stopping a little bit the flow of this episode. I'm a bit concerned about how entertained or bored you might be watching this episode, and I think we should do a little bit better in this area. So we may want to do a bit more of prep without forcing a specific direction, because that prep can be counterproductive when, for instance, we're going to be starting doing episodes much more targeted on investigation. You may want to have 2 or 3 initial threads or initial starting points. You don't want to have that many, because otherwise you're going to be restricted on that particular research structure, and that's not organic research. So let's try to do as best as we can the remaining of this episode. We get easily an hour plus to go. Let's see. Let's try to explore a little bit the structure of the GNSO and what are the different components of it, and let's see, structure. What's the structure? We had a structure menu on the left before. So there's a council and so forth, but no, that's not what I'm trying to look for. Okay, there is this education thing here. Get to know the GNSO. In here, again, this could be outdated. So there's a lot of information over here that is not necessarily updated. So I would be very remiss to use this as a source of truth. This is the active projects. Other activities, projects, is completed projects, calendar. It's not what I want. Okay, stakeholder groups and constituencies. Okay. Let's see. So the GNSO is comprised of stakeholder groups, and those SGs are the ones below, so it's 4 of them. And there is an amendment. Okay, before we get into this, process for amending GNSO stakeholder group and constituency charters. Okay. ICANN board establishes a process for the amendment of GNSO stakeholder group and constituency charters. The process as follows: amendment preparation, staff review. Okay. So this can be changed. There's a procedure for it. That's basically a summary. Okay. The 4 SGs, again, SG stands for stakeholder group, are essentially commercial stakeholder group, non-commercial stakeholder group, registrars stakeholder group, and registries stakeholder group. I think one of the cool things that we could do is twofold. One is look at the DNS lifecycle. I'm going to be taking notes here, and who is who in the DNS. In domains. Because a lot of people may have heard about registrars or registries, but maybe not both, as well as registrants, as well as root server, etc., etc. So it might be interesting to have a look at it. So let's first check on a DNS domain name lifecycle diagram. There's a cool one that this is the one that I wanted to find. Okay. I guess you can see it properly on the screen. All right. Once a domain name, so a GTLD is okay, the process is ICANN has a number of GTLDs that are available out there, and depending on the contractual agreement on those GTLDs, again, we should look into what the contractual agreements for this, what are. Contractual agreements are basically the agreements that regulate the use of those particular GTLDs. GTLDs are assigned to a number of actors. We'll get into that later when in the who is who. And once they are available, those actors can essentially sell subdomains, so secondary domain names, linked to those TLDs, those GTLDs. So let's say, for instance, that you want to buy contoso.com. Contoso would be hypothetically available under as a subdomain for the gtld.com. And if it is available, it will be here on the left side of the diagram. And this diagram showcases is what is the life cycle from the moment of availability to being again available should that domain ever be purchased or acquired by any party. That can be a company, it can be an individual, could be a government, whatever. Now, when the domain is, with the subdomain is originally available, you can see that there is a process of registration first. It has the stage of being registered. The ownership of domains, as you can see there, is maximum 10 years as per advance payment, if you will. I do not believe that you can do more than that. I think that's probably in the contractual agreements. There is no actual limit as to for how long you can hold the domain. There is a limit as to for how long in advance you may hold that domain. So you won't be able to contract it for more than 10 years, but if you keep renewing it every year, you can hold it forever. It's just a matter of how much money you're spending. And my guess is that that limitation comes because of financial implications. So if a domain name is right now very, very cheap, let's say $5, and you would contract it for 100 years, you would pay what, $500 for the rest of your life, essentially, because no human is going to be at the moment living beyond 100 years on average. I'm not talking about the extreme cases, rare cases. And in those 100 years, very likely the price has changed. We're probably going to be increasing quite significantly. And so my guess is that they estimated that in a margin of 10 years, prices would remain pretty much the same, and any increase will be offset by the fact that you have contracted early enough for a number of years, but then probably 10 years would be too much of a risk from a financial perspective, and that's likely why. You see, you cannot contract a domain for less than 1 year neither. You cannot contract a domain for less than 3 months. For 3 months, for instance, you would still pay one year. That I find that to be interesting in terms of finding which regulation, which document specifies that margin. Anyway, after that particular amount of time that you have registered the domain name, if you have not paid for it in the renewal, it will enter into the expired phase. For as long as you renew it, it will remain as registered. Okay, as you can see here, renewal and transfer is possible in the state of being registered. Once it expires, there's an auto-renew grace period. Basically, your credit card was not renewed, or whatever problem happened with the payment, you still have 45 minutes to be able. It's a grace period by which you can solve the payment issues that you may have, and it will be auto-renewed. Do check, however, that during that period of time, during the registered phase, the domain is in the zone file. What that means is essentially the domain is can be found. I should have mentioned that there is such a thing as a full qualified domain name, FQDN. That is essentially the whole set of subdomains and GTLD corresponding to the final domain name provided to a machine. So what do I mean by that? If I'm typing the iofoundation.org, so for instance, we have this CNAME for workspace.theiofoundation.org. that's the full qualified domain name for that machine or for that service. The FQDN for that one, it will be workspace.theiofoundation.org. If it was a website, www.theiofoundation.org, that will be another FQDN. Even the iofoundation.org on itself, which is where the website is hosted, is also FQDN for the machine that is replying, that is responding to that particular, in this case, HTTPS request. Okay. Now, that FQDN that you have in your particular machine, specifically the secondary domain name, will be available for everyone during the time that it is registered. Therefore, if I go to the iofoundation.org, you can find our website. Now, if it enters the auto-renew grace period, as you observe here, it may not be in the zone file. So depending on your registrar, they might decide not to have that functioning. You would still have the grace period to be able to renew it, and you still have the ownership over the domain during that grace period. However, it might not be accessible. It's a way for you to react, basically. Now, if you go beyond that grace period and you don't pay, then you are into redemption grace period. What that means is that for sure the domain name is not in the zone anymore. It is still under the purview or the control of the registrar where you registered your domain name. That is for 30 days, and they may charge you. That's typically what happens. During the redemption grace period, they will charge you extra to reactivate that domain name. Should you not pay, and let's say that either it was you who didn't manage to pay on time, go figure why, or that you decided not to renew it and is just landing into the redemption grace period automatically because that's the intended course of action that you have in mind, then it will move into the pending delete for 5 days. And after those 5 days, it will be again released and it will be available for anyone else to register again. So that's basically how it goes. You have a domain that is available, it gets registered, and it enters a register stage. Once the time of that registration expires, it goes into auto-renew grace period, which typically, if you have automated the renewal, it will do it automatically. If the payment is not done during that grace period, you enter into redemption grace period, which is 30 days. If payment is still not done there, keep in mind that that payment will definitely have some extra charges, and sometimes the charges are very, very high. It will enter into pending delete, and if it reaches all the way to the end of that status of that stage, that domain gets released again. So essentially, if you see a domain that you want to purchase and someone is the owner at the moment and maybe they're not using it and they want to release it, whatever it is, you will have to wait 80 days to be able to have access to it after the expiry date of that domain, because they will first have the not renew grace period of 45 days maximum, then redemption grace period of another 30 days, and then the pending delete for 5 days. So if you sum all of them and things are properly implemented, that's 80 days in between the actual expiry date of a domain. Okay, so that's good to know. Now I'm just gonna keep this over here on the side. I'm trying to collect the links because what we're gonna have is a page for each of one of the SDOs, and in that page you will have the information that has been collected and obtained and discussed during the podcast episodes, so that you can go back to it any single time. So I'm basically keeping all of those links there. All right. Now, I also wanted to find the who is who thing. So, registrars, registries, and registrants. Okay. See if I can find a diagram as well. That should explain quite well. And actually this one has the resellers are there too. Okay. All right. So this explains all that terminology, and this is important to understand. Because there's in fact some policy happening at the moment, PSSI, in which I'm also involved, in which they are basically discussing some of the policies that are going to be applying to these people. Okay, so you first have a domain registry. The domain registry is the one that is holding, as you can see over here, they manage top level domains. Okay. How many of these are? Okay. Let me see for a second. Domain ICANN, registry, registrar. Let's see if I like the definition here. So, registries as defined over here. Let's see if I like a bit more that definition. Okay, so registries are responsible for the overall administration of the top-level domain, of a top-level domain, and they say the policies for the domain, manage the registrations, and generate the zone file. The zone file is just basically a database. A registry can manage multiple domains, like VeriSign, for instance. They have .com and .net, or just domain like SIDN for NL, etc. So what happens is when see, what was the definition of a reseller in this? Let me just check something, how they define reseller. Okay, correct, yes. So basically registries are the ones who hold the management and the file zone for the GTLDs. Now, registrars will be the ones who sell domains under those GTLDs, and domain resellers are those who are reselling services for registrars with some extra services sometimes, but they don't do the management of that subdomain. So for instance, VeriSign my holes.com. They manage everything that has to do with the gtld.com. Namecheap sells .com domains, and if I purchase the iofoundation.com, for instance, I will pay to Namecheap to be able to hold that subdomain, under.com. Namecheap will manage everything that has to do with the IOFoundation.com, sorry. And in that case, the IO Foundation is the registrant, the one who has done the registration. Any information to be able to access the IOFoundation.com would be hosted, and it would be the responsibility of Namecheap, of the registrar. And as a registrant, I can add as many third-level domains as I want through any provider that I wish. So, for instance, either the registrar's DNS service interface, or Cloudflare, or whichever other DNS manager that you want, even your own self-hosted server if you want. And so resellers do the same as registrars, yet they don't provide the actual infrastructure for the service. They're just reselling. It would, if a domain reseller is a partner for Namecheap, I might be buying something through them, but it's still going to be Namecheap, either transparently or very openly, being the ones doing all the back-end management for that particular secondary level domain. Again, I'm missing here the possibility of having a whiteboard. Google took down, is taking down Jamboard, so we need to find a bit of an alternative for this. We also need to be able to do the. It's not really cool to do this kind of diagrams with a mouse. So we need some kind of tablet or something. We'll figure something out. All right. So summary: registries are on top for top-level domains. Registrars take care of secondary domains, and registrars are the ones doing the registration process, and resellers are only reselling services and typically some added value somehow from registrars. Now, the reason why all of this matters is because we were looking at the where was this stakeholders here, and you can see here the registrars and the registries have their own stakeholder group, and so the registries are the ones on top, and registrars are secondary. So registries would be the ones with GTLDs, and registrars the ones with secondary level domains. Now let's see what happens with the commercial stakeholder group. It's subdivided with commercial business users, intellectual property, and internet service providers. All right. CSG. CSG is one of the most active constituencies in ICANN. They get a lot done. I knew some people over there. I can see in the pictures that they are still around. Okay. So the CSG does have a structure. There's an executive committee over here, and they tell you to which constituency they belong. So BC is business constituency, IPC is intellectual property constituency, ISP CP is constituency, but I don't know what the P means actually. ISPCP, shouldn't it be ISPC? Let's see if this has any meaning that escapes me. Or if it's a typo maybe. Internet service providers and connectivity providers. Okay. So that's how they like to call themselves. Fine. But you see ISP and connectivity providers constituency. Ah, okay. So it actually should be ISPCPC. That would make more sense because everyone is finishing their constituency with the C at the end. Okay. Oh, what is ICP? Shouldn't it be IPC? I think there's some typos over here, basically. BC alternate. See, this is ICP. It's a typo. And the alternate, red. Then the council representatives, executive committees here, council representatives. These are going to be per region. Latin America, Europe, Latin, North America, Africa. Okay, interesting. Doesn't seem to be anything for Asia. All right, there's another thing, since you can see in each of one of these profiles, this soy. What this means is statement of interest. And this is a mechanism by ICANN that allows you to declare voluntarily what kind of engagement do you have in ICANN, as well as what kind of interest you are representing in ICANN. So let's say, for instance, you are a lawyer for a big IP group. You should be able to indicate here openly what is it that you are representing. And so there's some very specific questions over here as to the type of work performed in your current position. What is your declared country of primary residence? If you have any financial relationship between, with ICANN and so forth, that could have an impact in the way you are participating, whether you have vested interest, basically. And this is not to say that anyone is going to be double checking this. There is, in fact, a bit of how to say, there's been a working group trying to redefine what the SOI should be for and how it should be maintained and the kind of questions that should be involved, etc., etc. And it's been a kind of a heated conversation, for all I know. Essentially, it's a full disclosure page, and everyone who participates in ICANN has one. You can see here all the list of people who have been participating in ICANN. They have their own SOI. You will not be able to participate into some of the processes unless you have your own, and I should have mine somewhere. There you go. And basically you can also see what kind of work people have been doing in the past. And I should actually add, I'm right now part of the EC for NCSG. I should add it somewhere. Anyway, it's a voluntary disclosure. Take it with a degree of reliability that you may want. All right, it's not clear to me what the council does, what the councillor does. So let's see if we can find some information as to what is their role. Okay, executive committee, constituency page. What does this lead us to? That's the same page we were seeing before. The CSG represents the views of commercial internet users and relevant sectors of the ICT industry, including large and small business entities, business organizations, internet connectivity providers, intellectual property owners, and intellectual property organizations. Yada, 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 yada. I still don't see where is the information. That's the charter. Okay, so we can have a look at the charter. It's from 2011, quite old at this point. And let's see what councillors do. Genus of council. We should do a specific daily podcast on each of one of the charters. I think I'm going to take that down as well. Analyzing the charters properly for each constituency. When I can. Okay. Can we find more information on the councillors? By recognized constituency. Roles and responsibilities. Okay, CSG, there has to be some council chair. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for. Council vice chairs. No, it goes back. There has to be somewhere. I hate that these kind of things don't have an index. Makes it harder to find things. Communications, meetings, executive committee. The roles and the liaison between CSG and the non-contracted parties house, between CSG and ICANN, and CSG and its recognized constituencies as required in stakeholder group matters. I would like to know what this means. Exactly the actual meaning behind this. Contracted and non-contracted parties. CSG functions. I don't see the councillors. Okay. Anyway, that means we need to look into it more calmly. Specific episode just for this. Now, this is the SCSG, and then looking into each of one of the constituencies, the commercial business users constituency, BC, they have their own executive committee. And likely people here are as part of their consular position. Again, it's unclear to me what is the distribution of all of this. This is when the mapping becomes more interesting. ICANNBC.org is their website. They do have their own website. So let's be clear. The BC has money because companies who are invested in domain names and earn money out of domain names can pour money into resources and fund the people who are participating in the BC. And in fact, all of these organizations have vested interest in assigning people from their personnel specifically to defend their business interests in ICANN. So you're gonna have people from GoDaddy, Namecheap, 2Cows, and so forth around here, making sure that policy that is generated by ICANN is in line with their interests. Although sometimes I've seen some of them being very fair towards the users in general and making sure that certain things that may come down the line that could have hurt the final user, the registrants, are not enacted. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, and I've seen a few nicer attitudes that normally you wouldn't expect from much more business-oriented environments. The intellectual property is another constituency, and they also themselves have their own chairs and so forth. And what they do, these guys, is represent the views and interests of owners of intellectual property worldwide, with particular emphasis on trademark, copyright, and related intellectual property rights and their effect and interaction with domain name systems. So, for instance, if you want to register, I don't know, Coca-Cola.com, would it ever be available again? It was available at some point in the past. Then, of course, this constituency would come in and challenge you. Then the ISPs.
Your camera is
Off again. What's going on with this cable thing, seriously? But we didn't touch anything. That's what kills me. Okay, today is not the day. Let's restart again the camera. I don't have another cable at hand right now to change that, but seriously. Don't worry, everyone. 2 years from now, we'll have all of these things figured out. Meanwhile, just bear with us. And now it says no camera found. Unbelievable. Trying again. Okay. Starting the cam. What? It again? On the spot. Yeah, but hello. Let me just stop the cam for a moment because I need to arrange the position. So this would be keeps not detecting. Sorry guys, just give me a minute. I'm just gonna go and find another cable because this is not acceptable. Just give me a second. changed. Gonna configure the camera very quickly. Okay, I think we're good. And we're back, although there's too much zoom there. For some reason it went all the way to 100, which was not the value that I put. So weird. Okay. All right, I think we're back. Okay, so let's start again. We were looking into the ISP's constituency inside the commercial stakeholder group that has again an executive committee and some of the councillors. They have a secretariat. Of course, IP has money, so they can have a secretariat, and they have their own website as well. Let me see. Go to ispcp.info. Funny, very likely .com didn't exist, was not available. So there you go, Philippe Foucard. And the diverse global membership. Seriously, the day will come where diverse will absolutely be exhausting to hear and read. Diversity here, diversity there. I prefer the word plurality, if anything. Anyway, some familiar faces there too. So they have a charter as well, which we should keep an eye on one day. All right. And then going into the non-commercial stakeholder group, we will have the NCUC and POC as well with their own charter. Sorry, no, that's not what I wanted. And so the IO Foundation is participating in the non-commercial stakeholder group through NCSG itself, as well as NPOC as members of the three constituencies as well as active part of the EC for NCSG, as well as the EC for NPOC. Okay, now let's have a look at the registrar's stakeholder group. Reminder, registrars are those who work on the secondary domain level, and registries are the top level domain. So registrars, the representative body of registrars, yes. Diverse and active, seriously, cut it already with the diverse. Everybody is supposed to be diverse by definition. There's this need to reinforce those things. It's nonsensical. Okay, and there's a charter over here as well from 2018. And by the way, yeah, the RSG is the registrar's stakeholder group. And then if we look at the registries, RISG is their acronym. Is this all ICANNese? And it has to do with registries. And again, the charter, which dates from 2016. Okay. The membership roster. What does that mean? It's very interesting to see how many TLDs each of one of these registries hold. So the region, we cannot order this. Yeah, registry, observer, or association. That's interesting. Do they have membership, resources, about, leadership team? Yeah, each of one of these constituencies is worth a whole episode to go way deeper. Active members, 76. In Asia Pacific, there's 13. Top level domain representatives, 331. I wonder if there are TLDs that are not under this constituency, because this is possibly something on the membership type of thing. So I become a member. What happens here? Access to the private list. I don't care. Teleconferences, stakeholder group meetings, vote on important matters. Access. Membership application, membership dues. This is always what matters. How much you have to pay to be there. Jesus. Observers 500. So if we wanted to be an observer to figure out things, to see what's going on inside, behind the curtain, it'll be 500. New members that join after 1st April will not be billed for next fiscal year. Okay. Dues based on the main names under management as of July. I see, but I still don't understand exactly how that. Okay, so that's the initial membership. Okay, so you start staking 1,000 or 500. Fine. But on top of that, you still need to pay based on this. So if you are an individual, 675 between 0 to 10,000 domains. So, okay. An association membership, that's 3,000. It's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. Okay. It's also interesting to investigate. And what I didn't see is whether registrars do also have. Registrars don't seem to have. Here. rsg.org. And okay. Let's become a member too. Let's do the member list first. That's the IANA. Oh, okay, you didn't know that IANA gave them an ID as well. Okay. So, for instance, Namecheap 1068, say brand, e-name, Sado, right? But these are going to be only registrars. There's not going to be resellers. And what is that column over there? Voting member. Okay. So becoming a member for this. Possibly some very similar people did both websites, by the way. So first of all, you need to be an ICANN accredited registrar. That's off the bat. So there seem to be no observer options over here. Membership fees, then 100 euros for the year. Okay. It's a lot of money if you want to have an eye on things properly. All right, so this is for the GNSO. We could have a look at the board appointees, because the GNSO does have a number of board seats. Okay, let's make a search as to what does exactly the contracted party house represent. Okay, it's one of the two houses of the GNSO, with the other being the non-contracted party house. The CHP includes two stakeholders. Ah, right. Okay, so the GNSO is divided into two houses, the contracted and the non-contracted. The contracted has the registry stakeholder group and the registrar stakeholder group, and the non-contracted is going to have the commercial, the ISP, and the commercial or non-commercial. Okay, so it's a bicameral structure. Correct. Okay, so the contractual situation is vis-a-vis of ICANN. So for or those who hold contracts with ICANN, I guess that's the etymology of it. So essentially, registrars and registries do have contractual agreements signed up with ICANN. So they are contractual, so a contracted party. And the non-contracted party house are basically all the rest of constituencies who interact inside ICANN without having signed a contract with ICANN. Okay, that makes sense. And so in terms of seats, the contracted party house has seat 13 and the non-contracted party house has seat 14. All right. So there's 2 board seats for this, which basically means business ISPs and IP as well as NCUC and POC all have one specific representative. So now what I want to know is the board composition as of today. ICANN board of directors. Here. These are the diagrams that I was looking for before. About time. I'll check on this now, because the nominating committee also matters a lot. And we should also look into this. And let's see if we can have a look at first the board members right now as it is, and then we look into those diagrams. Okay, a few familiar faces here. Some of them are very cool and very engaged with the community. Don't know all of them though. Some of them very new. All right, and this is not fully updated because Sally is not anymore. So Tripty's here, Danko. So who does this? This doesn't tell us the board the seat number. Selected by nominating committee. That's the liaison for Harald is the liaison for IETF, as we were saying before. Selected by ISO, nominating committee. Okay, we need to find the one selected by GNSO. Okay, and selected by GNSO. So these 2 come from the GNSO, and 1 will come from the contracted house party, and the other one from the non-contracted house party, which doesn't seem to be indicated in here. This is a liaison for the GAC, the one that doesn't have voting. That's nominating committee. Sally, is she still a board member? She could be. I'm not 100% sure. Sarah Deutsch, nominating committee. That's the SAC liaison. Okay. This is selected by ESO, Kaufman. That's the RSAC, so Wes is in RSAC. CCNSO, that's selected by them, okay. At large community, Leon Sanchez. Okay, all right. So those are theirs, and we should be able to see a bit better how this works here. Okay, this is the, if not this one, some way very similar. All right, so this is the board, and you can see that there are in total 20 people, 16 of them, so 16 directors and 4 non-voting liaisons. And even inside the board, so you can see here the voting members is this icon over here. So the IETF has 1 liaison, cannot vote. In this case was that was Harald over here, Halverstrand. Then in the case of what other liaisons we have here? So let's start on clockwise. The IETF liaison, that's the one that we have seen over there. The GNSO does have 2 members on the board. The CCNSO has another 2 members on the board. The address supporting organization has another 2 members on the board. And then on the advisory committee. So these come from the supporting organizations, and these come from the advisory committees, the ACs. So this is ISOs, this is ACs. Again, remember, SOAC is the group of both all the supporting organizations and all the advisory committees. Now, you can see here the at-large advisory committee has 1 seat, can vote. All the ones from the SOs can vote, as you can see here. In the case of ALAC, this one can vote. GAC cannot vote. RSAC cannot vote, and SAC cannot vote. The ICANN president and CEO, of course, also can vote. And then there is a number of here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, that are appointed by the NOMCOM. And the NOMCOM is not related to, that is not directly related to any of these constituencies, any of the SOAC or any of the liaisons and so forth. However, the members, the people who will be selecting the appointees, are do have representatives in the NOMCOM. So we're going to be looking into that in a moment. I want to very quickly check this diagram over here, see if I like it. Nomination timeline. Okay, where's this is the NOMCOM 2020 NOMCOM. No, there's got to be another one from, is it 2024 maybe? Does that work? There you go. I don't think there's going to be another 2025 because that's going to be way too much into the future. There you go, page doesn't exist. That's a nice 404. Why not? Alright, so who is right now in the NOMCOM? And what's the structure of the NOMCOM? Let's have a look at this very, very quickly in a moment. I still want to check the overview of the board of directors. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nominating committee. Okay, cool. Here's the structure of the nominating committee. When is this? It's ICANN 2014. It's a little bit old. This may have changed because I know there's been changes requested on the nominating committee on the NOMCOM. Is there a structure over here? Timeline. And there you go. All right. So, what does the nominating committee do? The NOMCOM is responsible for appointing a number of seats to the ICANN board of directors, the public technical identifiers PTI board, the at-large advisory committee, and the councils on the country code name supporting on CCNSO, as well as the generic name supporting organization, GNSO. Okay, so for the councils, all right, so the councils are elected by the NOMCOM. All right, that's funny. I thought the councillors were elected by the corresponding SOs themselves, supporting organizations. NOMCOM delegates act only on behalf of the interest of the global internet community and within the scope of the ICANN mission and responsibilities assigned by the NOMCOM by the ICANN bylaws. Okay, the NOMCOM is defined in the bylaws of the ICANN. They do not act in furtherance of the group that appointed them to the NOMCOM. Okay, so basically these are representatives of the concept that is supposed to be defended by ICANN inside each of one of the supporting organizations, basically to rebalance and making sure that the supporting organization is kind of a steering committee inside each one of the SOs, if you will. How does it operate? NOMCOM consists of 15 voting delegates along with a number of non-voting leaders, advisors, and delegates. Voting delegates serve one-year terms and can serve no more than 2 successive terms, after which 2 years must elapse before they are eligible to serve again. Fair point. Okay. So the voting delegates of the NOMCOM come primarily from the following: 1 ASO, 1 CCNSO. GNSO has 7 and there is registries, registrars, each of one of them, business uses constituency, large and small, non-commercial, ISPs, and intellectual property. Now, okay. Now I understand a bit better what was the issue with the seats on the non-com for the GNSO. The non-commercial users constituency has one seat, but NPOC doesn't. So NCNC has one seat, NPOC doesn't. And business users constituency has two, essentially, for small and large businesses. That's a little bit unbalanced there. Yeah, that's another story we may want to keep an eye on, just to make sure things are going on track. Okay. And then the IEB, the Internet Architecture Board, remember that's a structure inside the Internet Engineering Task Force, the IETF. It's interesting that they have a member there on the non-com and voting on top of that. That's funny. That's a very separate SDO with a delegate in the non-com that can vote. I also want to do another episode on the non-com for the IETF, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is something. Actually, let's have a very quick look on this. I'm curious. IETF non-com structure. And non-com is here too, the official organization. Can we open this? So where's the non-com here? The non-com here, so there's members, that's liaisons, and then there's the chair. That's fine, but that doesn't give us the composition. And let's see, steering group, meetings, don't care, of chairs. That's not what I'm looking for. What's the composition? The non-com chair. Okay. So IETF non-com pages for 2024. Voting members. Non-voting members. So there's a number of liaisons over here. Nick Doty. I'm sure. Hold on a second. Is this Nick? The Nick that I know? Just curious to check something. Is that an email? No, that's not what I want. I'm curious to check one verse before I forget. Just indulge me 1 second, guys. Okay, no. So we don't have here an origin of where these voting members come, but for instance, from liaison perspective, there's ISOC and so forth, but there's no ICANN here. IP Trust, 2 years, ISG, timeline, candidates. See, it's I find it interesting that the IEB may have, and so not the non-com, but could it be that the IEB probably has someone from ICANN. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Wes. announcements. Down you about us, the members. So Wes is IAB, that's for sure. Maybe they are unofficial representatives, but I don't. I see an influence from IETF into ICANN, but I don't see it back, and that surprises me. And this is not the IB that we're looking for. Oh yes. Okay, there's a whole story here that I would like to check later. Okay, I find that interesting. Let's go back to this, and then the ALAC has one representative for one delegate for each of one of the regions. Asia Pacific region, each of one of them basically. Then the rest is the GAC has one delegate, okay. The RSSAC has one delegate and SAC has another delegate, that's fine. The ICANN board has a chair that is selected. So the ICANN board selects the chair and the chair elect. Okay, that's for the transition. I'm not sure how that plays out over a timeline. And then the associate chair that is selected by the NOMCOM chair. Okay, and all of these are non-voting. The ones who vote are these. So these can give an opinion. So you look at it. So even governments, the GAC does still not have voting abilities for the members of the board that are selected by the nominating committee. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. See if I can see some names over here. None that really rings a bell to me. Now, my guess is that every now and then, so that the election of the NOMCOM seats are going to be selected, okay, at each of one of the constituencies. Okay, and so we need to look into the charters, very likely, of each of one of them to figure out how it goes. And so nominating committee fill 7 open leadership positions. Does this lead anywhere? No, it's just an image. Haha, cool. So ICANN board of directors, there will be 3-year terms for 3 positions, at large for Europe and North America, and I'm guessing the candidates are also moved, presented by each of one of them. So how are the candidates presented? Invitation for candidates, let's see. NOMCOM process and background, that's pretty much what I want right now. Okay, we can write any information. Who can apply? Overall criteria, okay, let's see. Individual, don't care, mission commitments, good value. That's not what I'm saying. Who puts forward candidates? All members, okay. A candidate should be able to work and communicate with English as a requirement. Okay, this requires a lot more investigation than we have the time for today. It's been 2 hours 33, time check. All right, and I still want to look into a few things more. All right, so this is cool, and don't want to trust this very much, but this is the kind of diagram that gives you a very good impression as to how the board is done. This graphic is great. Diversity. Stupid. Non-voting liaisons. Okay, that's great. Okay. That's a very good infographic. All right, so we have that. And I want to see if I can find another thing that would be very useful to look into is IANA. I'm going to keep all of these, keep all of these too. Okay, so let's go for IANA somewhere. Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. As indicated here, it oversees global IP address allocation, autonomous system number locations, ASNs, root zone management for the DNS, media types, and other internet protocol related symbols and internet numbers. That's all the resources that are basically relevant for anything TCP/IP are managed and registered and handled by IANA. All right, IANA.org. This is part of ICANN. Okay, it has a separate website. It's still under ICANN, and I don't know if we can. IANA. There we are. This probably helps. This is from when? Doesn't say. All the way down. Well, there are references from 2013. The latest that I can see, 13. So I'm guessing tops 2015, tops 14. Okay, let's see if we can find the diagram. That's an interesting way to put it. Still not the diagram that we're looking for. What is this? Board of Directors. Oh, here. This is great. This is how things have evolved. This is fantastic. So the PSO subdivided into the Technical Liaison Group and the IETF. And now I want to know Technical Liaison Group, TLG. I haven't heard about this one before. Consists of 4 organizations: ETSI, the ATUT, interesting, W3C, and AB, So who's here? This must be not updated. Very likely. Although Warren is still AB for sure, but I don't know if this is from his previous term. Wait, is Warren still AB? I can't remember. Okay. Okay, this is very interesting. This is very useful. And then the IETF and the liaison for the IETF. And so the domain name supporting organization was split once they realized that they needed to split CCNSO and GNSO. Okay. Board of directors, but then the nominating committee became the one who decides on the board of directors in 2012, 2002. So probably if we look at the timeline, we will see those events happening. Okay. The advisory committee on membership became ALAC. DNS Root Service System Advisory Committee became the Root Service System Advisory Committee, and then SAC was at some point established. Okay. Between the bylaws in 98 and the new bylaws of 2002. That's really cool. Okay, that's really, really good. Now, can we find what I was looking for? There you go. Although I don't believe this is all that I wanted. Okay, it's better than nothing. So inside the ICANN habitat, you can see that the IANA and the IANA functions are here. So it's part of the ICANN habitat. And then the regional internet registries. So the way this functions is, for each of one of the resources, you have to be assigning people who are going to be shepherding them, basically. Shepherding would be the right term. Let me see if I'm using the term properly. It's with an H, shepherding. Is it here? Yes. They should carefully manage my resources of an organization. Yes, correct. Anyway, assigned to shepherding somehow. So you have domain names. Those domain names are going to be provided to registries and registrars. Then you're going to have IPs, and IPs will be assigned to regional internet registries. IRIN, LACNIC, RIP, AFRINIC, and APNIC. And each of one of them per region will themselves manage the assignment of IP ranges to customers and governments and so forth. Okay. Now, if we look at IANA itself, we can see what do they have in terms of the three principal categories. The three categories they have information that they are. It has to do with domain names, with number resources, and with protocol assignments. Domain names, they manage the root zone management. They have a database of top-level domains. They have the .int registry and .arpa registry. They act as, I believe, and then IDN practices repository, which I'm curious because my rant from before made it very clear that I have issues with IDNs. Donuts. Okay. Wait a second. What does this mean? Yeah, just give me the document. I'm not asking for any style. So this is an XML file. Let's see what it has. It's taking a bit too long. Okay, hyphen table data, ID and reference table for Chinese language. Okay, I don't understand why it's called Chinese language when it should be Mandarin. What was the criteria there? Not really sure. Type allocatable, character, CP. Okay, this seems to be some type of conversion table. So I need to understand this a bit better. ID and repository procedures. So Spanish here, GoDaddy. But then why would they have accountant, actor? Oh, does it mean that for every GTLD they have assigned a specific registry that takes care of one of the translations for what in God's heaven is this? So .director, so those are GTLDs and they are paired with specific languages. Again, I don't know why they're calling this Chinese. And then Latin, but then it's a script, it's a language. And so for each of one of them, there is a registry that is holding, I'm guessing, that particular DNS translation on that. So for .directory, which is all of these, Donuts Inc. is taking care of translating, but not in Japanese. That would be Identity Digital Inc. So they need to do the detection of the script. So you need to find equivalences. So it's clear that when it comes to GTLDs, you first need to have an agreed upon equivalence for each of one of the languages that they want to have that domain name available as. Okay. And they assign that to specific registries, which basically means that registries do not have one specific GTLD anymore. They might be overlapping each other depending on the language they are covering. So right now, for instance, I would like to get this whole thing and check for each of one of the registries, which can we download this on a table? Wait, what? What is this Hangul thing there here? What? Add those are TLDs in Hanzi and in Hangul. Is Hanhung? If my Hangul is not too rusty. Is it Sun? Samsung. So does Samsung? Okay. See, I don't understand this. So, .Samsung written in Hangul is a registered one, and it only has one single. It's actually here on the right side. It has one single registry. How about the translation in other languages? Why would this one not be translated into any other? Why only the ones in in Latin script would be getting, this is so weird. Okay, so I'd see if I can select all of this. Can. Very quickly see if I can create here. Can I? So I'm doing something on the private screen that we have. Okay, Google Sheets. Just give me a blank one. Tristan,
Yeah.
when I turn to the left, is my mic volume still good?
Yeah.
Okay. Paste. Let's see. It's still functioning over here, so I'm gonna, just wait. It's a very, very long list, so anyway. Okay, so meanwhile, so this has to do with domain names, and I guess we can get some more information by checking here. Okay, so key aspects of the DNS, including the root zone, the int and ARPA domains, that's what they maintain. Top int is for international, cross-national organizations, and that would be itu.int, for instance, WHO. And then the ARPA is for internet protocols, reverse mapping of IP addresses, and so forth. Yes, IDNS practice repository, root key, signing key. That's a whole story on itself. So DNSSEC is something we will also look into eventually. And then the special purpose domains. This is also a very funny part of the story, whereby you can see this policy reserved domains for contractual limitations, and there's others that have been conflicting, such as, for instance, .amazon and so forth. That was a whole situation in itself. Again, not worth looking into another episode per se. There you go. The spreadsheet is working on. Okay, so I will need to split this by. It's a shame I cannot show you this. Let me think, how can I do it? Can I load this over here? Maybe yes, maybe no. So long story short, because we are running a tight ship in terms of, I'll tell you, security, we have isolated the stations that we do the podcast for ProtocolWatch from anything else. And so I'm gonna need to, okay, I can manage this. I'm gonna allow me guys to stop my camera for a second, because I need to do some security stuff here. I'll be back in a sec. Okay.
Do you want to put this on your private screen?
Come again?
You're sharing your screen.
Yeah, if you can hide it for a second. Yeah, there you go. That'd be better. Just one sec. almost there. All right, we're back. So I can start the cam. So this is very simple, just copy paste table from that information from the IDNs. And what I would like to do very, very quickly is just to split this. Got it. So if I want to split this, this one over here by essentially, the delimiter is going to be very simple, and split by each false. Okay, took you long enough. So now if I take this here and I copy and paste all the way down there. Oh my gosh, it's 4,000, it's 10,000. Well, that's a lot of entries. No wonder. Go down, my boy, come on. Okay, 11,500. Okay. And we're gonna paste there. Wait for a second while it does its magic. Meanwhile, let's go back to here. Do your thing. And there's some RFCs here that defined these as described in RFC 2606 and RFC 6761. A number of domains such as example.com and example.org are maintained for documentation purposes. This domain may be used as illustrative examples in documents without prior coordination with us. They are now available for registration of transfer. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, and then there's some test ID in the top left domains. All right, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so going back to domains here, no need for this anymore. And so that's what we have for domains, just very, very quickly. And then number of resources. These would be both IP addresses as well as ASNs, autonomous system numbers. And that's basically big numbers for internet routing, whatever you want to pronounce it. Then the IP addresses are subdivided, as I was mentioning before, among different regional internet registrars. There's a global policy that I can see, global addressing policies. Okay, we can also look into this more in particular. And IP address allocations, so that's the IPv4 address space, the multicast address assignments. Same for these global unicast allocations for IPv6. All right, and then autonomous numbers. For instance, I've never really checked ASNs. So here you are. Number that's assigned by Arin. And then all of these Arin. APNIC has these ones here. All of those two here as well. Some more over here. Okay. Regional internet creation. Okay, so you can. There's the criteria for the registration. Also interesting, to know a bit more about their history. and then protocol assignments. So protocol parameters would be, how do you make it so that a web browser knows exactly what's the port on a web server? Well, that's because the HTTP and HTTPS protocols have been standardized and they have been assigned a specific number that is managed by IANA. And so if you ever work in a new protocol and want it to be published and want it to be properly international and recognized by as many systems as possible, you will want to, one, make sure you are not overlapping with an existing assigned protocol port, and two, to be yourself assign a port. And so you have here all of the assignings as well as the corresponding RFCs, I'm guessing, that reference them or to make them exist. And so if I go to HTTPS, that should be somewhere, or hypertext maybe. There you go. Authentication control parameters, authentication scheme scare, cache directive, sorry, cache status, field name, method registry, parameters, priority. So HTTP2, this was HTTP2. Tristan,
Yeah.
was HTTP2 quick or quick was HTTP3?
I think it was 3. I'm not sure. You have to check.
Ah.
Maybe it's 3.
Oh, there you go. So there's 3 here. HTTP3 settings, blah, 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 blah. Let me just very quickly check on that. No pun intended. Quick HTTP 3 or /3 basically. Ah, my gosh, what's going on with my writing? And that should actually be this. But yes. Okay, so I actually posed a wrong question. Was that the version of HTTP that runs on Quick? So Quick is basically a replacement for TCP and UDP. It's kind of a unifier of both. And of course, that's not HTTP.
You're far away from the mic.
Sorry. Yeah, so I was saying,
Talking to me.
yes, so it's just a habit trying to look at you. Yeah, so the thing is Quick is essentially a replacement of TCP and UDP. More of a replacement originally from TCP by using features of UDP. And of course that's not related to HTTP on per se. That's for the browsers and web servers. The thing is HTTP3 runs on top of Quick. So that's what I meant, that they are basically connected. Okay. You know what? I don't know if HTTP2 also runs on Quick. I haven't looked enough into the topic. Anyway. So there's that for IANA. As you can see, it's the assignment is quite straightforward. It's just a very simple form, and from my understanding, it doesn't really. It's not very complicated, or they don't put problems. You just have to justify exactly why you are requesting for that. So if you have an RFC that is published or about to be published, of course they're going to be attending the request. Now, the time zone database is also quite interesting. They provide all the time zones and so forth for technical reasons. And you get here the BCP for procedures for maintaining the time zone database. Time zones are such a fascinating thing too. I mean, India decided that UTC plus 5.5 minutes made sense But then I want to show you this because otherwise you're not going to believe me. Kathmandu, Nepal decided to go on 5:45. So someone thought that having an offset of 5 hours 45 minutes made sense. Why is this? Why? Nepal has 8 degrees of longitude and when giving to I don't care. I don't care. 15 minutes is it's a very strange choice. It's a very strange choice. Anyway, let's go back very quick to the IDNs thing. They're done? Yes. Oh, damn it. What was the value for? No, hold on. What didn't I say split by H? No. Let me just quickly check. Google Sheets, split only first term. Anyway, doesn't gonna change what I want to do because what I would like to see .zara, really? Did Inditex buy Zara? I guess Zara means something in some other language. .youtube. Okay, so now what I want to do is get over here and then give me a filter and very simply request for this. Gonna go all the way up and gonna delete this row. I'm just gonna select the whole table and I'm gonna sort. No, that's not what I wanted. And yes, I swore. I swear a lot. And you guys are lucky I'm not swearing that much in those streams. That's not what I wanted. What I wanted is to get data. It's very slow. Sort range in advanced. And get as a header, and I want to take the responsible party. Yep, and then possibly inside that, then go for table, I guess. Yeah, so that. So for instance, ACO Severin is managing all the languages for their own self-purchase, I have to assume self-purchase GTLD. That's all right. Now, Affilias has a number here of domains. You know what? Actually, it would be very interesting to have a look at how many people are from these organizations in ICANN. Because Affilias, for instance, has a lot of stuff. And we should actually do some counting here. I'm not going to be boring you with all of this, but I'm definitely going to be doing some work on, so Amazon, I'll do some work on this spreadsheet. Amazon, author, AWS, bought, buy, call, circle, deal, fast, fire, got hot, IMDb. Of course IMDb, they own, Amazon owns IMDb. Kindle, yeah. Like moi, as in me. Now pay, pin, prime makes a lot of sense, of course. Read room, save. Okay, this is going to be very interesting data to work on. And we can do some very cool things as to check how many domains, how many GTLDs have all the possible scripts and where are there overlaps and so forth. That looks interesting to research. Okay. So time check. Let me see. It should be under 3 hours now. 3:11. That could work for now. I feel this episode hasn't been that exciting. I feel we are failing to deliver something here. Let me just review very quickly. So ICANN takes care of domain names, IP addresses, ASNs, protocols, all of that on the IANA, of course. And then the structure will review the structure. We've reviewed a bit of the governance to figure out how to. So participation, if you are an individual, the easiest way is to go through ALAC, the corresponding, you can actually look into ALAC very, very quickly. Control F, ALAC. At large, okay. At large. Do they have a link? Yes. So individuals, basically, it's way easy to participate through ALAC, and different RALOs, so the regional at-large organizations. There's also the ALAS structures. So if you look at each of one of the Malaysia, for instance, which is where we are, you would have Control F Malaysia, so CFM, and then the next one, Internet Society Malaysia. Okay, ISOC Malaysia and CFM. Check your own country and see if there's any of those that you can participate. And the RALOs are very, very easy as individuals. Now, if you're a company, you definitely want to go on the CSG, depending on each of one of those three options. And if you are a non-profit, you definitely want to go through NCSG and request a subscription, sorry, a membership for either NCUC and or NPOC. And I think that's going to be enough for now. If we start in the coming days doing daily shows, there's some logistics there that are involved, and it's very tight right now in terms of time. If we manage that, I will do some extra exploring on some of the topics that I was discussing, as well as some of the charters, and I will try to see if I can figure out that thing about the mapping, how we can dynamically do some mapping. The next best thing is essentially reviewing some of this structure and possibly preparing a bit better for the upcoming ICANN meeting. Let's see if I can ICANN.org. So as I was mentioning, there's a meeting coming up for ICANN is the annual general meeting. That's 9th from 14th November. I recommend to register now. All you need to do is to go and create your own ICANN account. That's easy to do. It doesn't cost any money. That's one of the interesting things about ICANN. Although going to a meeting may cost you the flight, accommodation, expenses, and so forth, that of course comes from your wallet, the actual participation in the meetings themselves is for free, and participating to any of the processes in ICANN is also for free. A very different story is, for instance, your registrar or registry. In order to be part of the constituency, as you see, there's a membership and there's going to be fees, etc. But that is specific from that constituency. That is not mandated by ICANN. And for all I know, ICANN is not getting any money from those directly. Of course, they get indirect money through the ICANN fees for every single selling and renewal of domains. That's another story. I think there might be an opportunity once we do the episode for ICANN 81. Once we check the agenda, there is a pre-meeting week that it might be indicated somewhere around here. Let me see. See if there is any. No, I don't want to go to the registration. I hope it's not taking me. No, general info schedule. There you go. Yeah, so I need to log in with my account as well to do this. In any case, I wanted to show that there is a prep week a few days earlier, and we might be able to look into this, and the agenda will be out on the 21st of October anyway, and the week before ICANN 81 we will be doing an episode specifically looking into ICANN 81, what's going to happen, what should be the things that you should be paying attention to, and we can take the opportunity to go through some of the structure again and maybe prepare a little bit more more structure information and revisit it with you guys. I believe that would be all. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Contact at theiofoundation.org. Although we will set up an email specifically for ProtocolWatch. It's going to be easier. You can also find us on social media and messages over there. DMs are typically open. And you can follow us on X, on Facebook, who would wish to leave from there anyway. This stream should be available on YouTube, on X, as well as on Rumble. And I would say that's all for this week. Anything you would like to add, Tristan? No, you're good. Okay, thanks a lot, Tristan. Thanks everyone for listening and for being there for as much time as you may have spent being here. we'll try to do some shorts as well from the episodes and experiment a bit. See you next time. Thank you.